All right. Hello and welcome to the Crack Down episode 15. Today we have Jankos here with us. We were actually supposed to have Jankos on a few weeks back, but he messaged me. He was like, yo, I got to win the third LEC championship in a row. So if you can just wait for me to finish that, I'll come on your show afterwards. And I just told him to spice it up a little bit. So they got that loss to Mad Lions in quarterfinals, made it real dramatic for us and everything. So, it's good to have him here. I'm excited to talk to him. I've known Jankos as far back as like season 1, which I guess we'll get into here shortly. But yeah, like, how are you guys doing today? You guys ready for the show?
Yeah, I'm just chilling. I finished my stream just before the Crack Down started, actually, like 20 minutes ago. So I had my plenty of fun with solo queue already for today. So I can do something else finally.
How is streaming for like a pro player? Do you like start to feel like the grind of it at all? Because I know that like streaming for me was like when I transitioned from being pro player to streamer, for the first year it was okay, but like it started to feel like such a grind at some point. Do you feel like streaming is kind of like new and refreshing, or do you have like stream days where you're just like, man, it just sucks like when you're losing a bunch of games on stream, etc.?
I mean, I've been streaming for like I think 5 years now or something, but I was streaming in Polish before, and for sure there are days where I still stream daily, even during the season. So there are days when you have like a really bad scrim day, and then you still remember that like even though the scrim day when they're like really shitty and you hate your life, you still have to like turn on the stream and like play a few games and like have a good mood, because otherwise no one will like really watch you. You don't want to like go on stream and be like quiet and just like pretend that someone died close to you, that like you can't really just have any happiness. But,
are you sure that's how it works, man? Are you sure? Because literally, there was a point in my career where I would get more viewers the more angry I would get. So like people didn't want to see me like happy or having a good time. People were like, I think you're muted, by the way, Thorn. But yeah.
That was kind of your gimmick, wasn't it? That was kind of the whole...
Yeah. No, people just wanted me to flame everyone, so...
No, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I do think that people like drama on Twitch, and I do think that you can get more viewers being like low-key toxic, just like really loud and like shouting and just like making scenes. But my streams were not about this. I mean, like right now it's like 50-50, but back in the day I was just like about gameplay, and even though I was streaming, I was trying to focus on like how to be better at the game, right? And I remember the times when I was playing in H2K, and when I would be streaming, people would say, stop streaming, focus on gameplay, because you are like really shitty right now. And right now there are times when, we are winning with G2, so no one really minds me streaming. Right now they come to my stream and they're like, you betrayed Poland and you should stream in Polish and stuff. That's what Polish people say. Some of them, obviously not everyone. So I still like there's always like some hate going on, but I do enjoy streaming quite a lot, and that's why I didn't stop for so many years. And obviously it's like a source of additional income, but it's also about me creating like a backup plan for when I'm done with League as a pro player at least.
Yeah.
By the way, that whole take, because it's a very common one that people in esports who are players get, where a fan just goes like, what, you didn't win? Why are you doing insert literally anything? Like, why are you watching a movie? Why are you playing a different game? It's like, listen, cocksucker, imagine we came to your fucking job and then you finish work at like 5 p.m, but that project still has like 5% to go, and you go home and then we're just at your window all the time. What are you doing watching TV? Why haven't you go back to the office? Go back. Like they're just sat there doing nothing, eating one Reese's Piece. Why didn't you get an A on that exam? Why are you eating Reese's Pieces? Why don't you fucking study? Like, it's such a ridiculous standard to hold people to, especially because like you can't just play 17 hours a day. You have to have time off.
Yeah.
And basically you're streaming in your time off.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just the mindset of like,
to be funsies,
it's like, nah, you're just supposed to be miserable forever, and no one should ever
like. Isn't it?
It's like no one should ever have fun in their lives.
We're not like Japanese people in the 15th century or something, guys, where it's at that level of seriousness. Like we can have a normal life as well.
Yeah.
It's actually the worst thing, by the way, about the influence of Koreans on games, because obviously Koreans do that, and as a result, it makes people think that should be the standard, but it shouldn't. Like I can tell you right now. It's not a coincidence. There's barely any Koreans at the top still from like 5 years ago. It's basically like Faker and like one other person or something. And the reason why that is, whereas in Europe, it's not that it's just competition. The reason that you've got Double Lift and Reckless and loads of people in the West is because we just don't burn people out in the same way. Like Koreans really do. Like, I don't think you can stand more than about 2 years of the Korean system of really like doing this thing, practicing every second, unless you're like some alien, basically. Like to me, Faker's like a mutant. He's not a normal person,
Yeah. No, I
think that's a fair point. I mean, I do like, I remember times when we would play more, or I would play more, and I think that right now at G2, we have like a very healthy lifestyle where We also do stuff outside of the game. I mean, obviously there's like Corona around, so we can't really go out to restaurants and stuff. But like back in the day, like last year at least, we used to go to restaurants, cinemas and stuff. Right now we still watch movies in the house. They play a lot of Magic, the Gathering. So we do stuff outside of the game. I think
Sponsored.
playing for like... Actually,
I'm sponsored. I'm sponsored by Magic. I'm actually sponsored. You gave me the most.
Got it.
The most insane fucking plug that I've ever got in my life. Yeah, no, I mean Magic the Gathering, amazing game. Been sponsored by it for about a year now.
Basically,
great game.
This is the ad. It's like when I'm not winning 3 back-to-back LEC championships and MSI, I like to play Magic the Gathering. It's a fun game. There's the commercial.
Actually, the only one. Actually, I'm the only one that doesn't play the game because I do streaming instead of playing Magic, and I do exercising and stuff. So I do other stuff, but they do like my teammates really love it, and they play like both online, and they also buy a lot of cards. I think like we have probably like a couple of €1,000 worth of cards in the gaming house.
Okay.
It's like 4 people have them, and everyone is like buying so many. But I think having like the Korean way of playing where you only grind solo queue and you have like few breaks for food and that's it. I don't think it's possible to do that anymore, especially with age. Like maybe if I would be like 17 again, I would be like so passionate about only playing League, maybe. But I'm 25 and I'm not playing League for more than like, I think 10 hours is fine, but like not more than that.
Thing is, wouldn't you even say, I mean, listen, your team is literally arguably the most successful Western team ever. So it obviously works for your team. Like, that's one of the things I've actually noticed ever since you made this like super team with Caps and Mickey X joining, is like, it feels like the personnel in your team, if they did try to grind like that famous Fnatic team that went 18-0 and they apparently just sat there all day long, like doing nothing else except play League of Legends, I think that would actually make your team have worse results. It feels like sometimes you need like a pressure release every now and then. Like sometimes even in the split, like that's why you guys just have a bad week, but then you bounce back,
No, I mean, I kind of agree with that. Also, I think when Camps came to the team back in 2019, he was like playing only solo queue. But since he rolled swapped to AD carry, he actually didn't enjoy solo queue as much because you were more reliant on your teammates than you were as a mid laner. You couldn't like 1v9 as much. So he naturally also stopped playing as much solo queue, and he was playing, way less solo queue and doing other stuff except for playing solo queue, which was basically playing the card game. So I think that. For us, we do tend to grind scrims and we focus more on like what happens between games and us discussing the game instead of actually blindlessly only grinding solo queue.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, one thing I wanted to jump into that you were talking about a little bit before was the fact that you used to stream in Polish. And I remember like a couple times that people would ask you, because I mean, I watched your stream even when it was in Polish and I just muted it and just fucking watched your gameplay because I thought you were a good player. But I remember like a part of what you said was that you were actually uncomfortable like in English. I don't know if that was like actually true or like how much that you wanted to just have that connection with your Polish fans. Like, did you actually feel like were you actually embarrassed of speaking English on stream and things like that? Because it seemed like you were fine in like Riot interviews and other things that I saw. But like at that time, like I remember you citing that as something that, you just weren't completely comfortable in.
I think it was not about me being embarrassed about like how I speak in English. It was more that when I streamed in Polish, I was making like a lot of jokes and a lot of like scenes that were funny. But when I was speaking in English, I became like more stiff, and I was like sitting there and playing and like not really interacting as like I was still interacting with chat and talking to people, but I would just like not be the same, if that makes sense, Mm-hmm. Because also, in my opinion, it's like easier to be a streamer when you are like streaming in like main language. So if you're American, it's easier for you to just like kind of pop off with like all your jokes. And for me, it was like the same in Polish, like since I was Polish and my like the language I felt most comfortable in was Polish, and probably is still Polish. I would like crack more jokes that way. But I mean, at some point I realized that probably I have better chance of having a higher viewership when I stream in English, on top of if I want to be done with League of Legends or like done with pro playing in like few years, I should probably like grind in a way where it actually doesn't only leave me with my Polish audience, because that can like go away as soon as I'm done with League. So I just decided that I should just try in English. And last year I think I was streaming like one time a week, and since December I started streaming like only in English, and I'm pretty happy with the change, and I do have more viewers as well, so I'm like pretty happy right now.
Yeah, I was gonna
Isn't that also a factor though? Like, to be fair, back when you were talking, like you said before, you obviously didn't used to joke that much when you started streaming. Yeah, basically, I'm sure at the time you got more viewers by being Polish, right? Because there were barely any top Polish pros. And obviously, if people don't know, Poland's a pretty big country. You've got like 40 million people or something. So there's certain regions I've noticed in the world, like Brazil's one, Spain is one, obviously. If you are like a person from these countries, unless you can become an actual like global superstar, you're probably better off streaming in Portuguese view Brazilian. You'll just get more viewers. You get all the viewers pretty much, right? So until you had the like personality, I doubt you would have got more streaming in English at the time anyway when you were in H2K, etc., right?
Yeah, I mean, basically. So I think I'm not sure about like the times at H2K, but for sure, like when I started in Rockat, like the second year, and probably my first years of H2K, I was still streaming Polish, and also back then I didn't really like plan for future as much. I still wanted like to be a pro player, and I just had fun streaming. But now it's changed since, after so many years, I'm also like thinking about my future. So I do think that, it makes more sense to stream in English now. And with time, I also got more confident, and I don't really give a fuck about how Wait, can I swear?
Yeah, no, dude, no swearing on my channel, man. Please, anything but that. Anything but swearing on my channel.
So, yeah, wow, that's nice. So I'm pretty like confident right now. So I don't really care as much anymore, and yeah, I'm just happy with the change. I even was like kind of regretting not like actually making the decision sooner and not like streaming in English sooner. But at the same time, I do think that when I had like 3-4K Polish viewers, watching me, and I would change to be an English streamer, I don't think as many people would watch me back in the day. But now since G2 is on top and we are considered really strong, then obviously I also have like the advantage of being in a good team. And that's the advantage I'm trying to use to utilize my streaming numbers too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That was something that I was going to ask you about. You pretty much answered it there. I mean, if we're going way back, we're talking about the H2K, the Rockat days. A couple of years back, there was a video there was a vlog you did in Polish. I talked to you about this before we went live, but for the fans, there was a vlog you did in Polish where you actually said that you used to play on the NA servers. Obviously, EU West used to be a fucking mess of a server. Like, the servers were going down all the time. There wasn't even an EU West server when the game started. So all European players played on American servers with like 150 ping or something like that. And this was like in the prime of the Reddit IWDominate hate threads. There was just one lonely Jankos thread of like a Polish vlog where he said that apparently I told you that like you had like a lot of promise after a solo queue game or something in like season 1. Like there was a time where I was pro and I think you were like up and coming, and I like gave you like some credit, or like I said that you were like a good jungler. Like, did this actually happen, or did you just feel bad for me? Like how exactly did this come about?
So how I remember it, but yeah, it was quite long ago, so I don't like remember like the exact scenario, but how I see it or how I saw it was that I think it was back in season 1, probably maybe even earlier than that, because back then, Europe server was like pretty shitty. You couldn't really play there, and also I didn't really want to leave NA server for Europe since I had like I've been grinding this game so much when I started that like you still had to grind so much IP back then for champions and runes. So I really didn't want to start playing all over again. And I was hoping that Riot would like allow us at some point to transition the account, but it didn't happen until I think like season 3 or 4. But anyway, from what I remember, I think I spoke to you and to Saint Vicious as well. And I don't remember how I actually got to talk to you. I think like probably like I was fanboying in a way you guys, because
imagine Jankos fanboying IWDominate. What the fuck?
Oh, okay. So
it's a crazy timeline.
To be fair, I think you're like 16 or something at the time, though. You
probably.
I was pretty young, and also it wasn't like I was actually like thinking that you guys are like that fucking good. I was just thinking that you guys are pro players, and I want to be like you, right? Like you, like Hot GG, like Sound Vicious, like all.
And they were all the pros back then, yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think maybe I added you, maybe you added me. I have no clue, but I remember you telling me that I think you think I'm like decent at the game, and I should move to European server to try to be a pro because I'm playing with high ping. Mm-hmm. And back then you could actually see your teammates' pings when you were when you're loading screen. And like I mentioned as well in like pre-show. Maybe it was because he just wanted me to fuck off from his server, right?
Yeah, I was like, can we get this Polish motherfucker off my server? Like, just go back to Europe.
And I also remember, like, back in the day, like, during these times, I remember that, like, since all the Europeans kind of moved to European server, but I think there was still, like, maybe no Korean server back then. I remember that people thought I'm Korean as well, because, all the people that stayed, the high ping were, like, Korean players. And, like, I can't lie, I'm pretty good at the game, right? So it made sense that people I'm Korean. But yeah, I think it was mostly you and St. Vicious kind of like told me to like I remember you getting me an advice and St. Vicious getting me advice that I should probably try my strength on a European server, and so I moved in like a summer vacation time in Poland off school, where I could just like grind solo queue a lot and go fishing at 6 a.m. to some lakeside nearby. So that was my vacation time, and I grinded to level 30, and then I started climbing, and then not long time after I started playing in amateur scene, and so stuff moved on.
The thing is that what you mentioned there about the Koreans playing on NA, that's actually a part that a lot of people don't understand who are like modern day fans, which is that when there was only the NA server and then the NA and the European server, and then after that they got like Korea, China. I think actually China was before Korea. When they made those servers, right? Koreans, all the original Season 2 pros that everyone remembers when Korea came online, Mad Life, Ambition, Macnoon, all these like legendary names, they used to just be 150 ping players on the NA server. Yep. So even though it sounds hilarious when everyone brings up that famous clip from State of the League where like Chowster and Doublelift are explaining that like Korea will never be as good, that's because they've literally played those players. Now, yeah, they're being idiots and thinking like the guy on 150 ping just isn't good, but like I can sort of half and half see what they mean by that, because like they would just think, what that guy, I used to play against him and beat him all the time. They just didn't realize when those guys get on LAN, they're going to wreck you. Like I can tell you, if you in Counter-Strike, for example, where like Asia isn't a big deal in Counter-Strike, they don't really play it. If like they do have servers in, for example, China and Korea, but if they'd only opened the servers in Korea tomorrow and you came and said to everyone, oh, Korea's pretty good at esports games, they'll probably be the best in CS, everyone would laugh you in your face, obviously, because no one's seen it yet. So that's actually one part that's weird, because when you say that, Dom, as crazy as that sounds, like Jankos was fanboying you, I'm not joking. I guarantee, like, people like fucking Mad Life, before they became good and pro, probably thought that, like, holy shit, Chowster's just the shit, dude. It's like, it sounds ridiculous now, but it's probably true.
No, it was like that. And also, especially, like, the way that the game was, like, marketed at the time was kind of like that, like, NA and EU, those were just like the best players in the world, like the top team, the Fnatic team. I mean, Shushay was like the fucking king of the world. Everyone thought that this guy was like going to be the faker of the game for years and years to come, and he fell off like 1 year later. But I mean, I think one of the parts about that like Korean mindset that we didn't really understand was how serious they were about to take the game. Like, we all thought that it was going to be the same thing that we were doing over here, because we didn't have like coaches, we didn't have gaming houses until like LCS in Season 3. And even in LCS, there were teams like, for example, Dignitas. I mean, I got banned in Season 3, but Dignitas wasn't actually able to like have a gaming house for the first month and a half that they played in LCS. So they were like living in other people's apartments and shit like that. So I think the main thing that we didn't understand was how willing they were to like take League of Legends under their wing and create a viable system to have like the esport flourish as early as they did. Because I mean, we thought they would always be behind, right? That was the whole mindset, is like, well, NA is always going to be ahead of Korea because we had the game first. So we're going to be like the first region that gets these gaming houses and gets coaches and gets the infrastructure going, etc. But by the time that like, so in Season 2, is when the Korean server was released. And by the time that we went to compete in OGN, which was like about June of that year, they already had like 12, 15 teams. They had 12, 15 teams already in gaming houses. And not only were their main teams in gaming houses, like their second teams were already in gaming houses and stuff too. So they created the infrastructure so quickly that it was that it made sense that they were able to like improve so much so quickly, because so many people were dedicated to the game over there, compared to us, where it was pretty much only the top 3 or 4 teams that were considered like full-time pros. Like everyone else, even when we went to LANs and there was like 5 to 8 teams from North America going to the LANs, the last like 4 of those teams would just be people that had jobs, went to college, etc., and then played League like on the side.
People like Hyde, they would just play on the side as like a semi-pro, and they haven't made it as a pro yet. Yeah, exactly. That's why when everyone sees those results and like, why wasn't he good? It's like he was just playing when he was at school, like it's like Link or someone, pole belt or whatever. Actually, there's a detail people probably don't understand about that also makes it make more sense, Tom, which is back in the day you're talking about, the average salary in the West in esports, like even in big games like Counter-Strike, which at the time was the biggest game, or StarCraft or whatever, the average salary for like anyone who wasn't a top pro would have been like $200 or like $500.
I mean,
so the reason why the League of Legends pros from NA were the kings as well is you guys were all the first big streamers with those like mad CPMs that fucking the Battle of Owned and Twitch had, where people were getting insane CPM. So as a result, you guys were also pro, and you were making like tens of thousands of dollars on the side. The Koreans, like, I think people know this now because of the Korean exodus. Dude, some of those legendary Korean teams from like season 3 were getting paid a pittance. I'm talking like $12,000 a whole year, and they're just playing 80 hours a week. It was crazy. It was such a different world back then. You almost can't imagine it if you weren't there, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll just be like honest. My salary from Dignitas was $800 a month, and we were like one of the teams that was like top 3ing like every international tournament. And it was like, all right, $800 a month, and I was like, holy shit, I'm fucking rich, boys.
That was the shit, though, right?
Yeah, no, I dropped out of college immediately. I'm like, all right, yeah, $800 a month. Fuck you, mom. Like, I'm going home. I'm going fucking ham on this game. Like, that was my fucking that was my lifestyle then. So I guess to tie it back in, Jankos, like, what did you end up doing between that period? So that was like season 1, season 2, and then the next time that I guess everyone really started seeing you was like season 4 when you guys qualified like as Roccat. So what was like the time in between like how did you keep your skills up, or like how did you improve from the point where you were playing in NA to like when you actually became like full-time pro?
Well, I didn't really do anything like spectacular. I was just basically grinding solo queue, and I think when I climbed up the ladder on EU Nordic, and I started playing on EU Nordic because all my friends were playing there, so it just made more sense to like play with them at first, right? And then when I climbed to like high elo, I don't remember if it was like elo or ranks back then, but I did climb pretty high up. And then I think people started approaching me to be their jungler for like ESL tournaments, like Go for Lords or something. And then
small ones, we're talking about like cups and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like the online ones, right? And then I think, I was playing, I guess, some offline Polish tournaments as well, but these were like really small tournaments as well. We didn't really play for like much money, but it was like kind of fun to play because, you know, I enjoyed the games, so I would play them. And then my first like big tournament was probably like DreamHack Bucharest, where I went with the old KMT roster, so like the future Rocket roster. Yeah, exactly. Like where they approached me. No, actually, wait, my first tournament was actually LCS Lille. So me and my team back then qualified to
it was like a challenger tournament at one of the road shows.
Yeah, it was like a challenger. Right? Exactly. It was like a challenger tournament at a road show where I had to actually go. And I back then I didn't have my ID card yet, so I had to make a passport. When I was 17, I had to make the passport in like 1 week, which was like almost impossible in Poland. But I somehow made it, and I couldn't board the plane because it was too late. So I had to drive a bus to the tournament, and I arrived at 6 a.m. and we were playing at like 10. So I didn't really get any sleep that night, and that was my first tournament. I also didn't take my mousepad and keyboard because I thought that the tournament will give me my
This is the most noob shit. Wait, you arrive late to the plane, then you have to take a bus, then you get there like, right, where's my mouse and keyboard? Like,
I didn't know I had to like take my mouse and keyboard for some reason. So I borrowed, I think, from Hosan and Shushay. I think Shushay borrowed me like headphones or something, or a keyboard, and Hosan borrowed me something else. And yeah, that was my first tournament. We lost to I don't even remember the name of the team, but I think Pharrell and Roll was playing there. Maybe some other players, I'm not sure.
Pharrell and Lauren, holy shit, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so we lost that one, and then since me and I guess, and we asked Selaver to join our team because Woolite couldn't go, and I was playing with Woolite already back then. And Selaver actually asked, like, for the next tournament, DreamHack Bucharest, Selaver was in a different team, and he asked me to join his team because his jungler, like, 1 day before the tournament, he said that he won't go. So I stepped in with Vander, and this is like the roster that, you know, qualified to Rocket sometime after. But yeah, the off season, or like the season between I stopped playing on A and I started playing pro, or we qualified, was just basically me playing like just some random tournaments and grinding solo queue. So nothing really special. But like my dream was always to be a pro player. So I also was always grinding in with like a mindset where I always felt like the pro players are actually really fucking bad and I will be better than them. That was my mindset when I was grinding. When I was watching like some players, I was thinking like these players are so bad, I can be so much better.
Yep, I feel like that's a really good. That's a really common mindset, I think.
Yeah, and also I think that a lot of the players that are coming up right now, like I like even players like the Messis and probably like Selfmade and like Inspired, like all those players like kha'zix, I think all of them have like very similar mindsets where they just think that they can be so much better than all those boosted like old pro players that are playing right now, and I think that's a good mindset as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't think there's any way that you can actually be better than those players if you don't believe that, like, if you can't see their mistakes already and you can't see like the areas where you're going to be better. If you just look at these players like they're gods, I feel like you'll never be able to catch up. So it makes a lot of sense there.
That's also, by the way, where like those people, if they ever make those comments publicly, always obviously get flamed because like it sounds like you're saying you're better than some like legendary player. So like a classic example I remember, because this was one that got this guy a lot of flame, was when Febevan first qualified with H2K to the, not LEC, it was EULCS back then. And because he'd like bombed all those challenger finals to qualify previously, he was considered a choker. When he qualified, he did an interview where in the interview, the quote that was like the headline was like something like in a year or in, I think it was like in a year or in 2 years, I will be better than, and then he just listed all the best mids. So like fucking Alex H, like Expecke, fucking, and at the time that was insane because remember like EU mids were the best in the world in theory. So everyone at the time just flamed the fuck out of this guy like, oh, you're so arrogant, you're so cocky, but it's like, what do you think he was going to do? Just come in like, hello, Mr. Alex H, sir, can I have your autograph? Like, he's never going to win the game like that, is he? Like, that's the most garbage mindset of all time.
I mean, and even like going back, I guess in retrospect, that's not even that much of a comparison because I think that by the end of season 5, like almost everyone was better than those guys. So maybe not Froggen, but the rest, it got pretty rough.
Like,
he definitely caught up fast, sure.
I have like very fun story to share. Back in Worlds 2016 was a long time ago, so I'm not afraid to share it. Okay. I remember we were like. I don't remember which team was it, but in the quarterfinals of Worlds, we played against like a Russian team, right?
Yeah, ANX.
Yeah, ANX.
Albus Nox.
So, Albus Nox, exactly. So what happened is that I think when we qualified to the next stage, to quarters, and Albus Nox back then, they didn't really know they would be our opponents. Their jungler came up to me, said he's my fan, and then started talking to me about jungle matchups, and he told me every priority they have as a team.
It's just a fucking Russian virus or something. What's this shit?
Oh man, that's a trigger point for me, man. That was my only Worlds experience. Oh my god.
First thing I thought of it.
So like he told me like everything, like why do they play this? When do they pick this? And how do they play? And like he was just really happy talking to me, and I really didn't mind talking to him, right? Because we were not meant to play each other.
Yeah,
but then when we actually got to play Albus Nox, it was like so fun. Because I had like all the information.
Were you just like, okay, we just banned this and champion?
Yeah.
Like, did you just have like the ban list?
I just knew exactly when do they pick what, and I just told my coach, right? And I also knew all the jungle matchups. Like he mainly spoke about the jungle matchups, so I just know when would they pick what and what should we pick and stuff. So it wasn't like insanely helpful. It's not like we won because of it, because I mean Albus Nox back then wasn't like as insane, right? I mean we should win as H2K, so it's not the reason why we won, but it's just like a really funny story where he kind of like screwed up,
Yeah. Do you think you were like lucky to be in the semifinals in that year? Like, do you actually believe you were like a top 4 team in Worlds that year, or do you think it was just lucky that you ended up like RNG getting a wild card team in quarterfinals? Like, how strong do you think that H2K lineup really was? Because I've always been kind of like a hater of that lineup. Like, I never considered that a real semifinals.
Right, we'll do this then. We'll do it. Go on, Jankos, give your take, mate.
Well, in my opinion, I don't think we were like a bad team back then, but I'm not sure if we deserved like top 4. I mean, I think that since we did get out of our group and we didn't choke as, for example, G2 did that year. But I hope Perks is not watching because he will get triggered. But like I think that year a lot of EU teams choked and everyone like hated us that we got like lucky because we got Albus Nox. But they did beat G2 and some other teams to qualify to like the
CLG?
Second. Yeah, I guess CLG. Yeah, so they did beat some other teams to qualify to quarterfinals, and we had like our own group that in theory was like not as strong as people believed in it. I think it was with EDG, right? Like EDG was the toughest opponent. So of course, and who else was there that was considered good? Or was it only EDG?
No, there was AHQ, the one from LMS.
And people I think considered them like pretty decent, and like
they were a scary team. They could do some stuff.
Yeah, and back then, like after the tournament, everyone said like, "Oh my god, it was so free for like H2K." So maybe if we'll play against some other teams that did drop out in groups, maybe you'd lose, maybe you didn't win. But I mean, against the opponents that we played against, we were just like a better team, and I'm pretty satisfied with like I mean, I was just back then. At least I didn't really believe. Like going into Worlds, I didn't believe we would place top 4. But yeah, I mean, we did, so I'm happy with that.
2016, you played Rocks, I think, in semifinals, or who did you actually play in semifinals?
Samsung,
and we got really fucked by Ambition and his wards. He was just putting wards everywhere, and I was getting kills, but I couldn't do shit. And he was just like my daddy in the series, basically.
You want to do this, Tom?
My team was getting schooled, but I was also getting schooled. So
shall I give you the knowledge bomb?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Sure. Right, here we go. So I've actually got a video on this. It's on my channel. You can go and look. It's about like the H2K Worlds run. So if you want a more in-depth version, but here's the cliff notes for you. So these are the two main mechanisms by which people downplay that run. It starts with ANX, because obviously winning that match was in theory the freest one, because it's like a no-name team that's not supposed to do anything. They hadn't even played a best of 5 against the top team, and that gets you to play Samsung. The problem is, because you then got swept by Samsung, then people say, oh, see, they weren't good anyway. And then secondly, you didn't have a Korean team in your group. You had EDG. So let's take I can't take the Samsung one because you did just lose to them. But the other two, I'll show why those are actually really disingenuous points if you don't add the context. So let's do ANX first. Why were they playing ANX, Don? Well, here's the thing, mate. They didn't just beat G2 and didn't just play CLG. They beat fucking Rocks Tigers, the #1 team in the world. They literally beat that team.
Yep.
That was the team, by the way, who was supposed to win Worlds. They were the reigning Korean champions when SKT had finished like 3rd. And if you remember, it was only because of that like epic fucking Nidalee game from Bengi in the semis, when Bengi came back from the dead and wasn't even the starter for SKT, that actually SKT went on and won Worlds. Otherwise, I'll tell you right now, Smeb would have been a fucking world champion. So it's not like ANX didn't do anything, did they? They beat the best team in the world in a best of 1, which, by the way, back then was pretty hard. NA teams still never beat Koreans, even best of 1s. So then, right, let's go to the EDG part, which is just a Chinese team. Remember, this is the year before China starts to get really deep finishes in Worlds again. So everyone at the time was like, well, China just sucks. First of all, they definitely didn't suck, because that year, RNG was one of the best teams at MSI when they had Mata, etc., right? Well, here's the detail for you. EDG were the summer champions of the LPL. They fucking 3-0'd that RNG in the final, and in the round-robin section went 16-0 and didn't drop a game. So that wasn't some scrub team that the H2K guys played against. And if you just go and look at the names on that team, fucking Death's on that team. Like Mako's on that team. These are monsters. Claylov's on that team. Like these guys aren't jokes. Like the idea that anyone's going to talk shit. Like put it this way, mate. I'm not exaggerating. TSM making top 8 at season 4 Worlds is way less impressive if you look who they actually played in the context. Like it's way less impressive. So I'm not saying it's sick. Like actually, if you want to go on that angle, were they top 4? Maybe not. Like if I had to guess, there's probably some teams in the round of 8 who were really good who maybe had. So I'd say maybe they were more like a 5th to 8th team. I give you that, but I'll just say it's not as ridiculously weak as people think. Like if you add in the context, it only gets better, basically.
Yeah, and people were actually pretty scared of that ANX team because I mean. So Rocks Tigers,
they were mad aggressive. If you remember, they were trying like super ballsy shit. It was kind of like the original Gigabyte Marines, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, especially because of the fact that like so CLG was actually looking pretty decent in that group A. Yeah. I mean, like G2 was the one
they had a chance to get out.
Yeah, and CLG actually ended up beating that Rocks Tigers team too. I think the 2 losses that Rocks Tigers had were 1 to ANX and then 1 to CLG.
Yeah.
And then CLG just could not beat this ANX team for some reason, and it was so like catastrophic for NA fans because you have this team where you're like, all right, like everyone had a bunch of hope for CLG. Obviously, they won Spring, and then they got second in MSI, which was like a huge accomplishment for NA at the time. But then more importantly, like the games that they played after they beat Rocks Tigers, it was supposed to be a free win against the wildcard team. It's like, all right, you got the hard win against, like you beat G2, you got the hard win against the fucking Korean team in your group. All you have to do is beat this random fucking Russian wildcard team, and you just get into the next stage, and CLG just 0-2 to them, just dropped out easily. So, you know, like I guess ANX definitely deserved more credit. I guess the reason why I kind of did not respect H2K that much is because I didn't really like see if you guys got that much better from the end of summer to like when you played in Worlds.
They did.
I mean, I guess
Worlds is they were bad on week 1 of Worlds, and then they had to like didn't you have to 4-0 the second week or something, Jankos? So they actually got better even during Worlds.
Do you believe that you guys were like the best European team? Like if you guys had to play G2 in another fight, like let's say you played G2 in a finals because I think you guys came in as the 3rd seed to that Worlds. If you played G2 in the finals, like or like in another match, do you think you would have been able to beat like the best European teams at that time? Do you think you were the best team?
I mean, it's very hard to say because I always thought that back then it was very hard to prepare for our opponents because we didn't really like improve throughout the year. We just kind of played like the same way, and it was very hard to like have different fundamentals, and we always play the same way. And at some point we just get lost on the map. But I do think that how we played because we started playing really aggressive like week 2 of Worlds in 2016. So I think we'll play like that, and we'll play against G2 that also showed up to Worlds. Then I think we'll probably win, right? Because we did 3-0 the team that they lost to. So I think at that moment we were better, but in the summer split, definitely not. I think in the summer split we were like not really that good. Yeah.
So I think around this,
I think in the summer split we were also playing with Freeze, and then we had to bring back Forgiven, almost like when playoffs started, just because of like how difficult it was to play with Freeze as well.
So one thing I was going to jump into is I think this was like around the time where, I don't know if it came from Forgiven or where it came from, but there was like kind of like a reputation around you as like you were like a choker or something. Where do you think that come from? Do you think that there was like validity to that? Did you feel like you were nervous in like big matches or anything like that? Or do you think it was just like circumstantial that because
I will say, Dom, if you look it up, he did lose a fucking billion game 5s in semi-finals, like basically every time. So like if he didn't choke, then he was the most unlucky guy of all time.
Yeah, so how do you view yourself?
I mean, I think that I was a tilter, definitely, back in the day. So I remember when we were in a BO5 against, I think it was a Splice roster, but I don't know if it was, I think there was Splice.
Yeah, it was World's semi, not World Summer semi-final. The one where you lost when Odoamne was playing like Gangplank into Nar every fucking game.
Exactly. So basically like that series, for example, game 5, I was like totally out of it. Like I was so tilted that the team is dying the way they are when I'm like calling every gang off and stuff. So definitely back in the day, I was more of a tilter than a choker. I would say that my bad performances in playoffs that people were talking about were to us not playing very well as a team. And what I believe is jungler is also kind of like basically a good, like so for sure, like if you are a really good jungler, you can like carry a team, and if you are a really bad jungler in a good team, you will also look bad. But most of the time, a jungler is like how you should perceive a team on like a level, right? Because what you do as a jungler is normally what you agree with your lanes on. What do you think is the best way of playing the game, and how you should like play the game to win. And we didn't really have that in H2K. We just counted on me getting ganks off, so I would just have no game plan whatsoever back then, and I would just run around the map and hope that I would get kills. And if I wouldn't, then I would be considered that I'm choking and I'm not playing well, right? And if I would get kills during regular season when people didn't really prepare for games as much, then I would look insane. So I think that was like also a big difference. But yeah, I was also tilted. That's something I fixed in H2K in 2000. Like the second year, 17, I had like a sport psychology sessions where I was like just talking about my problems, I suppose. So that also helped me to understand myself better and what I expect from my teammates and what I shouldn't expect or shouldn't get disappointed about. So I was a different player back then, yes.
Yeah, no.
I have a little theory I wanted to add on that, actually. What about this, right? So one of the factors, because I've thought about this a lot, right? How you have sometimes really great players who become like champions later, but then they lose in all these situations over and over again. One thing I have a theory about in League of Legends is specifically the jungle role, because most of the other players in your team don't main jungle, definitely don't off-roll it in solo queue, and as a result don't really understand jungle. Like it's so different from the other roles. I mean, now even sport's got a bit like that, but back then that was still just you stay in the lane with the AD carry and it's just 3 lanes and a jungler basically. Because it's so different, most players in your team, they vaguely know like that you can path here or you can do that, but they don't really know like how you're feeling as a jungler. They don't know if you feel in control of the game. You don't know if you think, oh, I'm behind, but it's fine in this matchup and I'll get back. Like they don't know where your head's at basically. So I get the sense, right, that they just get like a vibe from the jungler. And if the jungler as a result is someone who's tilted or has issues in like big moments, that will sort of like seep into the atmosphere of the team. And it's not that it makes the others throw the game, but they won't feel as comfortable themselves. Like they won't feel like their jungler has agency, like they're protected in their lane. Because the counter to that, I think, would actually be this exact same year. When I said that thing about how Bengi wasn't even the starter, but he won another world, it was his last ever world championship. People don't realize he really was like benched that year. That guy Blank was playing the majority of the games in all the playoffs. He was playing the majority of the regular season games. He played all of MSI. He played all of IM. Even at Worlds, he was playing most of the games until he started to choke. And then they brought Bengi in, who, by the way, was washed. It's just that he couldn't. Here's the thing: Bengi couldn't have played 5 games in a row and won all. Like he wouldn't win all 5 anyway. But you know what I mean? Like if you played 5 games, he would never win 5 in a row. But because he was clutch, and because for whatever reason this guy could like handle being shit. I bet that made his teammates think, it doesn't matter what I've seen in scrims. Like he'll just get it done somehow. Like Bengi always comes through. Like it's the big game. Like he'll figure. So in the same way, a guy who was a way worse player at the time could actually kind of have a better atmosphere for the team. Because one of the problems with that H2K lineup was, I think that's one of the original super teams. Like almost everyone in that lineup's really good at the time in Europe. But the actual results aside from that Worlds one are kind of underwhelming. But then if you actually get to know the players, that it feels from the outside like you never really had a really great cohesion in that team. People never were like insanely comfortable or trust each other. It's just you were a bunch of good players stuck together. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, I think that back then also, there's not like a lot of game plans being like spoke about. And I mean, I don't remember these times like that well anymore, because I just feel like the game was playing so much differently, and the words were like still a thing back then as well. But yeah, I mean, from what I remember, most of the time in scrims, you would just like play, you know, and it sounds funny, and it's for sure like we had some kind of idea what do we want to do with certain composition or what do we want to do with certain matchups, but it was like nowhere as complicated, but as it is now. But now I just feel like in this G2 team, at least, it's like more simple because I can trust my teammates not like fuck up. And normally we are on the same page as of like what I want to do in game. And if I change the game plan, that's fine as well. But back then, how we would play is just like, you know, go top, gank top, and bot lane hopefully 2v3s, right? And on top of that, what was happening is that we couldn't have like a good scrim series, like 5 games, because I mean, we would get emotional, right? If we in this team, because back then I was more toxic, and obviously we had Forgiven in the team, we couldn't really get through like
obviously we had Forgiven,
and we couldn't really get like through like a decent scrim week. Like the more time we spent together, the worse it was getting. So at some points in playoffs, we even said we shouldn't play anymore, and maybe it will be better not playing than we will be if we would actually scrim.
Before we jump topics,
because like every like the game we had, like every time we would play more games, we would just become worse. You know?
Is it true? Like, so before we jump topics, because I kind of want to go forward into like 2018, 2019, etc. But was it true that like in Worlds, I heard some rumor about like Forgiven was scrimming from like another room, like he wasn't like
that was the summer split when they brought him back. That's the joke, dude. When they brought him back, he had to like live with like fucking Veteran and H2K Rich in a totally different apartment while they were in the team house.
Is that
so
actually?
That's why it's mad that they ran it back. Tell us the story, Jankos.
Is that factual?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just didn't agree to live with him. I was really unhappy that he was going back to the team because I just felt like I just couldn't work with him.
He was kind of a dick to you, let's be real. He was.
Yeah, he was also that. I mean, on a personal level, he was a dick, but also as a teammate, he was very hard to work with. But Freeze was just really bad, I think. No, wait, Freeze
he had his injury.
I mean, he has an injury, so I think he would be fine if not the injury. But since the injury, he couldn't play. He didn't really perform that well. So you know what it was, and the H2K decided like to bring back Forgiven, and I just didn't want to see his face because I knew that if as soon as we lose a game, this shit would go all over again, where we like, you know, he's talking about some random stuff instead of like talking about useful stuff, which is basically like why jungle is bot and is killing me and we are not getting anything on the map, right? So since that was happening, I just felt like we shouldn't have him in the house, because then we can at least discuss the game as 4 people, and he will be led by Vander, you know. And for Vander it was more difficult because he would have to lead Forgiven, but at the same time we would know that what Forgiven will do is just go bot, push a tower, and we just have to play around it. And we're discussing the stuff, how can we play the game with that in mind. You know, if IWDominate has like one way of playing the game.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
You know, it was actually, I think this year, because I know this year when Forgiven was in Schalke briefly, like that fucking 5-minute cup of coffee he had there, everyone obviously was commenting on him being toxic when he left. And I know Jankos actually on his stream told us anecdote that lines up with this, where he said one of the insane things about Forgiven is, and I'll corroborate this, there is an aspect to his personality that is so antisocial that he isn't aware of somehow. So, for example, the story Jankos said was that Forgiven would flame you so hard in the game, like be calling you like a fucking moron and what you're doing. And then 1 second later, because you're out of the game now, he would just be like, "You want to get food?" And you're like, "The fuck no!" Like you just attacked me as a person, like wrecked it. So like, in his mind, he thought like the second you step out the game, like we're just normal people again, which is like there's no team atmosphere in the world like that, surely.
I mean, I think it just doesn't work, right? It's very hard. I mean, it's you can say that you should keep your emotions out of the game. I mean, like in the game, right? And when the game is done, you can be like, humans again. But if you have to live with someone and work with someone nonstop, because we do have to live with in the gaming house as 5 people, and we have to work with each other for like probably 9 months in a year as pro players, it's impossible to do without, in my opinion, without like good team atmosphere. And if that happens between games, then it's very hard to just go back to normal instantly after the game, right? You can. It's very hard on like a mental level to just like cut it off and be like, yeah, you just called me a really fucking bad player and that I'm shit and I play like shit, but yeah, let's get some food, bruh. It's just hard to do it.
yeah, of course. No, it makes sense. So I guess I wanted to jump forward a little bit into like more recent times. So obviously for the first I think 5 years, maybe 6 years of your career, you weren't able to ever like win an LEC title. Do you think that like being on a team with somebody like Perkz that had won like, I think 4 titles by the time you joined, do you think that like helped give you like the confidence? Do you think you needed like someone like that to be able to like overcome that hurdle? Or do you think that it was just something like you always felt like you were going to be an LEC champion and it was just you weren't in the right teams for it?
I mean, I do think that Perkz is like a big reason why G2 was winning so much. But from what I heard, he learned a lot from Miffy, how to be like a team leader. And I think when I joined the team back in 2018, we still didn't win, right? Yeah. With the roster we had back then. Mm-hmm. But I could see him putting a lot of work. And even if like the times were dire and it was very hard, he would still be very uplifting, which was new to me because in previous teams in Roccat, I mean, at least in H2K, in Roccat, I think we were just playing the game. But like in H2K, at least the team and the management, but also the players required me to be like a leader and required me to be strong, show like a very strong emotional resilience. And when times are very bad and dire, I had to be the one stepping up and being like, because I'm a very loud person and I make a lot of jokes. And you can see when something is wrong with me, you can see when I think something is wrong. And that was very easy to read for my previous teammates and still is. And it's very easy for and H2K that would like bring the mood down because no one else would be like the way I was. So when I was being down, no one was there to bring the mood up. So then the mood would just go down and be shitty. And Perkz was a person that would like basically do the same as I would, but he would not give up as easily. And when he would, I could do what he wouldn't do, right? So we already had like more people that could like try hard to show everyone that we can win, that we can try. But I felt it was like not the same case in H2K, and also I was never a leader in my life when it comes to being like the people who the people should look at as players, because I never had the experience of playing on like at the highest level of leading the team and stuff. So that was also new to me. So I felt like in H2K I had like way more expectations on myself, but in G2 I was just a jungler, and Perkz was like the star, right, of the team. And I think that also helped me to have like less pressure on me, but also to like give my best while also not being expected to do as much as I was expected to do in previous rosters. So I was like pretty happy with the transition. And I do think he's a very good leader still, and I do think he's a great player, and he definitely deserves what he earned throughout his years of playing. He still didn't get the MVP, which he probably will at some point.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean he does have his off games, right? So I'm not giving up my MVPs, but definitely he we
won't talk about that game 4 versus Shadow. We'll just leave that game 4 versus Shadow, that Lee Sin game, on the side. We'll pretend that never happened for the sake of the podcast.
No, just talk about the 5 games against Selfmade. No, here's the thing though, like that, I also think that's another interesting detail, because if people remember initially when you and Perkz were interacting on the broadcast, because that was when they first started to bring like 2 players on the analyst desk, and it's when like they sort of started to let people banter a bit. Like you guys were basically the ones pioneering it that season 6. If people don't remember, dude, Jankos was bodying Perkz in those banter sessions. Mm-hmm. Like Perkz' banter sessions were just a shy little kid from, where is he from Croatia or something, just being like, haha, well, maybe we'll win. And then Jankos was straight banging him like, yeah, you're just getting carried by Drake, or like this guy. Your banter was pretty good back then. Like you were definitely the best of the people who are now in G2. Did he help Perkz level up? Do you think battling him?
I have no clue, man. I mean, like the only I remember like Perix actually talking to me back at the end of 2015 because Perix and G2 qualified in 2016, right? They started playing together back then. So I remember being at like a tournament in 2015, IEM something with like Ryu and stuff. And I remember Perix telling me that he's bringing new jungler Trick from Europe, and I thought it's like Trick to G, the streamer. So I really like didn't know like who was Trick back then, and I also didn't know who was Perix. I thought he's some boosted kid. But he actually like did win Europe that year. You know, in 2016 he won twice with like Emperor and then with Sven and Miffy, and with all the other with Kikis as well. So when like he was already like very confident, very cocky when he started playing. And I mean, I do think he got like probably. I mean, he was very good as well, but probably like Trick also was very good when he came to Europe. But when he was telling me this, I really didn't believe him. I thought like he's like G2 is going to be so boosted and like they are so bad and stuff. But
yeah. So one thing I was gonna so another thing to jump into is the Caps Perks. Like, you know, when Caps joined your team and then Perks decided to role swap. Normally, from my experience, junglers are like the most scared of moves like that. Were you on board with the idea of like Perks just changing roles and then like bringing Caps in, or did you want like somebody like Upset to join your team like over that? Because I heard that was like another rumor that was being thrown around.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with both options. To be fair, I think that I mean, like me and I had a lot of discussions with Perix about like Caps, about him being like good at the game, and I think it was like because in our teams we always have banter going on where you will get replaced by a better player.
There you go.
I would always like banter him about like Caps, and he would banter me about like other junglers. Like right now he's bantering me about Inspired, but back in 2018. I don't remember, but for sure there was a jungler who would banter me about, probably like some Korean jungler or someone else, right? So there was always like this spiciness going on. And when I heard that Caps could join the team, I was fine with that, but I was also fine with Upset joining the team because I did think that we just have to change our bot lane to be more successful. And it's fine to have just a better support and better like and him as AD carry, or it's fine to have Upset with Mickey, right? And I did believe that he can be a good AD carry because his most games played without mid lane was actually AD carry role. Like he would offroad to AD carry a lot in solo queue, and he really didn't mind it. So I didn't really mind. But what I was really happy about when Caps joined is that Fnatic is losing like a really, really strong member. And
exactly.
I feel like
that's the best part of the move, isn't it? As long as they don't have Caps, great.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's no way any other team can beat us in Europe if Caps doesn't have if Fnatic doesn't have Caps, right? So it just makes so much sense that if Caps joins our team, I just couldn't imagine ourselves being worse than anyone else, because I felt like me and Perix are like the only like I still felt like we were better than Caps and Broxa, but I felt like Caps was still like a good player and he was like kind of carrying Fnatic a lot. And I feel like if they don't have him and we have a good AD carry, which could be Perix, there's no way we can lose Europe, right? And it did succeed in 2019.
Yeah, let me give you the analogy, Dom, for what it's like in that sense, because I know what you mean. Like, obviously, I'd be nervous if I was on like a top team and I would like bringing a player who's never played that role. But imagine back when, in the same kind of time frame, Cloud9 with Jensen was always battling TSM famously in the finals or playoffs, right? Imagine if Cloud9 could have kicked Sneaky and gotten Bjergsen as a fucking AD carry. Whether Bjergsen would be good or not, you do it just so that TSM doesn't have Bjergsen, and that already probably wins you the championship, you know. So I think even just the implied value of that move makes it like twice as worth trying. Like the idea of just trying it because the guy's going to roll swap, yeah, who knows on that one? That could go either way. I mean, we saw this season, it looked like it was going to be bad until it turned out well in the end. So I think just the fact that you steal the other guy's best player is probably the best part of that move.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like Mad Lions? I mean, just because we're talking about, you know, like just like good teams right now, do you think that Mad Lions is like the most difficult team for you guys to play against? Because I was talking to Grabs a little bit. We did like an LPL code stream live viewing together, and he was talking about like how hard it is to draft against that team. Do you feel like that team just like inherently is just good against you guys compared to like a team like Fnatic, or do you think that you guys just got better throughout the playoffs and that's like why you're able to like...
my opinion actually was that Mad Lions pretty shitty. I didn't think they're a good team. I just thought we are like bad when we approach playoffs. By any means they are like not a bad team. How I understand is that they are a very coached team and they play by the book. And it's very easy to say what they will do at what point in the game. And it's something we didn't prepare for our first round, on top of us just not having good scrims where we didn't talk about how do we want the game to be played. which resulted in us being headless chickens a lot in the games we played against Mad Lions. Whereas when we approached them for the second time and when we played against Origin and Fnatic, we actually had like a game plan and we just knew we had like a better game understanding, the better meta understanding. We were playing on the patch for more time, so we just became better than them. But yeah, I mean, they are a coach team, I think, and they have the same coaching staff as Splice had, and they play a very similar style where they sacrifice top lane a lot, and they play as 4, and they always group, and they always team fight, and they always go through mid lane, and there are cases a lot where they forget about the mid wave, but this is like, I mean, specifically against this team, this is something that, probably coach is mentioning, but, sometimes players just forget, right? And we got really, really good around playing for mid wave as a team, and I mean, I will jump a little bit, but like back in 2019, G2 was a 1-3-1 team where we would like stomp with our solo laners on sides, and we would just like play as 3 with me, Luca, and Mickey. And right now the meta is way more about team fight, so we actually had to learn this as well, because we were not like a really good team fight team where we didn't like always know how to TP flank, how to group, how to fight, what do you want to achieve in game, how do you want to play for the objective. So all these things needed polishing, and I think we polished them very well throughout the playoffs. And that is why in the first round against Mad Lions, we just looked so much worse. And I don't think they're a bad team because I said they are trash or like they are bad, but it's not exactly what I mean. I just don't think that both teams played good League of Legends in the first series against Mad Lions. And I don't think they are specifically good against us. Maybe from Grab's point of view, it's different because they do draft in very similar sense. And compared to Fnatic, they play Kalista and Syndra. And these are big factors why Fnatic fell short in playoffs, in my opinion, because I feel like Kalista was the most OP champion in the whole fucking game, and still is probably, because it enables Taric and just you cannot lose fights, team fights, like no fucking way. And Syndra is also like, doesn't lose any lane mid, gives you so much prio, strong in team fights, good scaling, and can also be flexed to bot. Fnatic doesn't play neither. Mad Lions do, and they do play them both mid and bot.
Top, yeah.
But most of the time, Kalista will always go bot, right? I mean, we could at least send Kalista top. They can't. But Caps also learned how to play Kalista, which was a big factor why, they left it open against us, and they got surprised that Caps was playing it. And same goes for like Syndra. You can really leave it open against G2. So I just think that we had we caught up in draft, but also we like got better at game understanding, and these teams didn't really improve through playoffs. And most of the time Fnatic was winning was because they would take fights and outplay people, and they played decently well on the map, but we just had a better patch understanding and meta understanding going into finals.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's like better patch and meta understanding, or do you think that your players are just more flexible? Because like I don't know if Reckless necessarily like would think that Syndra's a bad player. I just can't see Reckless pulling out like Syndra and it being scary. Like if you put Caps Syndra bot versus like Reckless Syndra bot, I feel like Caps would just win 10 out of 10 times. So.
Isn't one of the reasons why, though? Like, this is another flaw that Reckless has as a player that no one talks about. It's not that he has a small champion pool. That's actually not true. I've never believed that. The reason he does have a small champion pool functionally, though, as in reality, is because he just seems like a player where he has to, like, feel comfortable on the champion. Like, I believe he could play he could play Kalista. Of course he could. Like, look at his fucking mechanics and how he practices. But if he doesn't feel comfortable, Reckless just doesn't play shit he's not comfortable on. So unfortunately, that's a weakness, because the difference is every time you hear about G2, like when they were talking about the Kog'Maw Lulu, dude, they didn't even play that apparently. That was just some shit they played like in like warm-up before the match, or like a couple of scrims, and then just played it on stage. So if Reckless won't play a champion, he even plays in solo queue. What do you want? Like, that's such a different mindset. Like, one person should win. That's flexibility when you'll play the things that you're not even that super comfortable on, just because it's a good win condition,
Yeah, basically that. And I mean, like, not even talking about only Reckless, I think that also
Nemesis had similar problems.
There's only scaling champions. So when you pick, I mean, we blind picked Azir about it a lot, and we know he wouldn't go like aggressive picks and play something like LeBlanc, Lee Sin, for example. Even though Selfmade, I think, can play pretty much any champion, so like he's probably like the most like whatever. Same goes for Beepo, I think he can play any champion, probably Hylissang as well. But I think mainly Nemesis and Reckless, they play their comfort champs, and their comfort champs are normally very limited, and it's very easy to predict what they will pick. So that is why the draft was just easy against Fnatic.
Yeah, it seemed like a draft kingdom.
They were blue side and they had to ban kha'zix. They had 3 locked bans on blue side. That is really cringe.
Yeah, no, that's so bad. Like any time that you're blue side, you'd want to be able to like first pick a Kalista, first pick a Syndra, be able to flex it, etc. But
dude, Nemesis didn't even play fucking Corki and Wazir. Like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, Dom. Like we're in a world where in a meta where Corki and Wazir exist, one person can only play one side of that matchup, and everyone goes, Thorin, can you stop hating? He's like one of the best in the world. Like, what are you talking about? He's not even meeting the basic requirements of the game.
Yeah,
imagine if my boys weren't playing the fucking meta champs. Oh wait, that's right. Everyone wrecks me about that all the time.
I mean, I think the Corki into Azir, I don't know how you perceive that matchup, Jankos, but I've never viewed it as like better for the Corki. Like I feel like it's just like farm for the Corki, and like
it's better than his dog shit Cassidy.
This is what I'll say.
Nothing in fights.
This is what I'll say. I would way rather have the Azir.
Fucking LCK.
If I'm in that game, I'd way rather have the Azir as a jungler than the Corki. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is most. I mean, I agree with Bobby. I mean, why it's considered a good matchup is because it's very hard to gank Corki because he can W away from your insec. Mm-hmm. And Azir, for example, like let's say you play Zoe into Azir, Zoe can like really have high prio early game, but as soon as it's level 6 and she gets insect, she's dead. And same goes for a lot of the matchups. And then Azir also scales like all of these champs. But with Corki, hard to gank and scales very, very well. Corki Pryor like will get pressure, especially with package. And in the games we played against Fnatic, we played like purely team fights. So Corki would probably like maybe make like a bit of a bigger of a difference. But instead they went into like Kassadin Veigar 2 games, which didn't really like work out for them. And then one game they just like first picked it, and I don't think like they would necessarily win with Corki, but maybe like their early mid game would be. I mean, maybe the mid game would be like a little bit easier instead of like playing Kassa and Veigar and like standing on the tower and just like hoping that we'll go to late game and hoping that he would actually do something right. So I do think that Corki is just like a fine pick if you want to go match the team fights and just go for that.
All I'm saying
wait a minute, Dom. Wait a minute. I've got to ask you this then.
Okay,
surely that means you're kind of on my, like, you don't have to be on my side, but you're sort of leaning to my direction then, because that very matchup that you've just said you don't think favors the Corki is what fucking Perks played against him in game 3.
Yeah, and I think that was,
and then Nemesis was up 5 kills to 1 to Perks, and Perks still wins the fucking game. Like. That's outrageous, because by your logic, it's on one side to match
exactly.
up.
I think it is. I think that Corki is like fine into Azir, but I almost always see the Azir being able to do more on the map. Like
I'm sure it's a skill matchup, yeah.
I mean, it's just like if I get into a 2v2, right? Like, let's say I'm a jungler and I go mid and they're level 6, and I see a fucking Corki with a tier. I feel like I'm never losing the 2v2 no matter what champion I'm playing. Like a Corki with a tier must be the least threatening thing you could ever see in the fucking game. So like. I've just always seen it as like Azir can also like push in the early levels, and I've seen this matchup played a bunch of times. Like everyone's playing Corki into Azir. We saw it in China, we saw it in finals in Korea, we saw it in NA, and it just seems like it's like you're just praying that the Azir doesn't take over the game by the time you have like Mana Moon Triforce completed on Corki, and then if you have that, then you're fine. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about was like early game, Jankos. So. One of the things that you used to be famous for, right? You were the first Blood King for Europe. That was what people just referred to you as. You were the guy that would get early kills all the time. But in this G2 roster for the last like 2 years, most people have considered like the weakest part of G2's game to be early game. Like once you guys get out of early game, even if you guys come out of early game behind, you're always the team that is making the crazy map plays, being able to sack dragons like 2 minutes in advance, prep on the other side, really good like team plays in general. Why do you think that like since you are like the first Blood King and G2 is like such a good team, why do you think it's the early game for G2 that's like the weakness of your team, or that's the perceived weakness for your team at least?
I mean, I think how I see it depends, because I just think we don't like to draft for early advantages anymore. I think that back in the day, even at Worlds in 2018 with G2 with me and Perix, we would like draft like LeBlanc Olaf, and we would just like try to play in opponents' faces and snowball. But especially in 2019 with this roster, we do like our scaling. And we don't always necessarily go for scaling, but it just basically means that my game plan or like my role as a jungler for the team is not to like look for random ganks. Because if I let's say go to top side when I'm not supposed to be there, and yes, I will get a kill and I will get the first blood, but at the same time my bot lane will like get really fucked for it, then it's probably not worth it. And when I was a first blood king, the game was played very randomly, where you would just run around and get lead because you would just randomly finish your clear and gank. That was exactly what I was doing, right? And that would like be good back then. But now the game is played on a different level where, for example, even when we played in Fnatic in scrims, if I would be on the wrong side of the map once, the game was just over because that's how good they were at pulling the trigger. And I don't know if they're pulling the trigger because of scrims or because they actually knew what is going on. And we actually learned a lot from Fnatic scrims throughout the split. Whereas we didn't scrim them as much last year because of the whole cap situation. But the point is just that we like to play the game in a certain way, and sometimes it is scaling, sometimes it is early game. And I think that, for example, when we play the Pantheon Talia, Talia bot Pantheon jungle, we end the game in like 10 minutes really. Like we dive at level 3 mid or bot. Like you can see in some of our games, the speed where we play Pantheon Talia is like crazy, like enemies can play. But yeah, in for example, against Fnatic, we played like Lulu, Kog'Maw, Trundle, So we are going like full scaling, and we really hope for like the late game. So it just hardly depends on what our idea is, the specific series, and how do you want to approach it.
Is that actually like a true story, by the way, about the Lulu Kog'Maw? I mean, we've asked other people, and everyone seems to believe it. Like, did you guys only actually scrim like 1 or 2 games with Kog'Maw at like the whole split or something, and then just decide to whip it out in finals because it made sense in like the team comps that you predicted Fnatic playing?
I mean, Caps was just like kind of sleeping, and I don't know, he was trying to sleep, he couldn't sleep, and then he was like, okay, I guess. He just thought about Lulu Kog'Maw, but Caps, for some reason, was talking about Lulu Kog'Maw the whole time.
What?
And finally, he pulled it off in finals because he just thought that it would be good against Fnatic because they were for sure not expected. And at the same time, in the draft he had in mind, we would secure all the prior picks for ourselves, like Azir, for example, like Ornn or like any other tank, right? We had a good comp. Like we didn't play for like specific champions, we would play for a good comp. So even when enemy would pick something like Azir away, we would pick Cork into it for scaling, for team fights. And for example, we knew Selfmade doesn't play Jarvan, so we always had Jarvan without Thresh because we would ban Thresh 100% of the time. And I just think how we drafted against them was really, really good. And in my opinion, by the way, I also think red side drafts are actually stronger than blue side right now because there's not enough OP champs for you to like care about, and you can even trade on red side. And I feel like last pick is really OP. And fourth pick is really OP as well. And I think Blue Side has to draft really well to actually win. And that was my opinion ever since we lost to Matt because they always chose red side. And I was just like thinking about a lot of drafts, and I just thought red side is really strong. And then after all, I mean, we won, and I don't think we won because we were red side. But still, it was just Caps.
Is the logic that Fnatic wanted to be blue side because they have more limited pools, so they have to be able to first pick, basically? Is it something like that?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. I mean Fnatic. I don't think Fnatic thought red side is better. That's just my opinion. I don't even know if everyone in my team would agree.
Well, they probably thought blue is better because they chose blue.
That's what I mean. I meant blue because they want blue all the time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they want blue all the time. But maybe they thought. I mean, like Tori mentioned, maybe they actually thought red is better, but they couldn't go red because of they couldn't.
They need to first pick something for the comp or whatever. Yeah,
like they will have to ban. Like, I think 4 bans against G2 that you have to ban right now.
It's like Pantheon as well, right?
Pantheon, Yuumi, Kalista, and Syndra, right?
Yeah.
So 4 bans. Mm-hmm. So if you go red side, well, you will give up one of them, and they were scared of it. And they probably also thought blue side is better because of the first pick, because they would get Aphelios, which also was considered OP. Mm-hmm. But they didn't even draft that well around it. And I think the trash ban just like kind of, like Helisank would always blind pick Tahm Kench with Aphelios on his team. So you
want him to take Aphelios then, don't you? You want him to take it.
We wanted them to play like that. Yeah, exactly. We wanted them to first pick Aphelios because we knew if they do, they will always pick Tahm Kench on 2-3. And that basically is a free matchup for E-Girl, for like a support, Arden support.
E-Girl supports? No, it's okay.
So basically that's how we drafted. And, it was well fought by the team, by Perix, by Caps.
Well, like you said with Caps, by the way you described that, Dom, I know you caught this. It's the way he just said it in like an offhand manner, like, yeah, Caps couldn't sleep the night before, thinking too much about Kog'Maw. Like, what? Like, you make it sound like, that old show, only way you could remember this, I don't think they got it in Poland. That TV show in America that was called Numbers, where like that guy had like a mega autistic brother, and his brother was basically like, could just do all the maths in his brain. That's what makes it sound like Caps is doing, like he just started work at like 2 a.m, like, and then if the line matchup was like, what are you talking about? Like, well, this guy just live, does he really just live, like eat, sleep, breathe League of Legends? Is that real?
Oh, no, like right now he's actually chill. Like I mentioned, like last year he was playing way more solo queue. Right now he's playing way less solo queue.
Okay.
And he's still playing a lot, but he's playing way less, and he's like more chill. And he also does exercises, which is like pretty impressive because he actually like when gym were still open, he would go gym twice a week.
What's
as
he doing?
Like
Cardio. I mean, the guy's built like Jesus. On the cross.
So I think he's pretty chilling, and it's not like he couldn't actually sleep. I mean, he I think it was like 3 a.m. probably, not 4 or 5. And on top of that, I mean, that's what he said. I think it was 3 a.m. Like he basically when he came to the room, he was like, I was playing solo queue, and he was like really excited, staying behind me. And he was like, I have an idea. and then he would like,
it's like some other movie.
and then he would tell me the idea. But then he would also like, whenever everyone was awake, because I think I was awake as the first one, so he told me. And then when everyone was going into the gaming room, he would like jump all over them and like tell them the idea because he was like super excited about it, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, it's a good fucking idea.
So we would just listen to him. Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, we were doing some drafts and we just at some point said, yeah, fuck it. Like, we trust you, Caps. You know, if you want to play Lulukoma, we'll just play Lulukoma. If you choose 4-5 something else, if you choose like Varus Brom or something, that's up to you. You know, you choose what you pick, and then we hope you carry. And he did, you know.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say, because I was one of the people who I flamed him a lot this split, because he did have times where he looked shit and I thought the team looked way worse. But bearing in mind, in theory, the narrative was going to be if Fnatic won, that he was one of the reasons they won. Like, that was supposed to be the weak lane. So the idea that he actually came up with the draft strategy and then carried some of the games, fucking mad props. It just shows how insane this guy is as a player.
What I have to add to that is when someone is so excited about something, you really want to trust him, you know, because like when you do the draft and you're like, maybe I'll pick Lee Sin, but I don't know because I'm playing a selfmade, so maybe it's hard. When you do something like that, right? Instantly your team is like, what the fuck? This guy's shooting spans or something. But when you like go to the team and you're like, I want to play this, I really want to play this. I like 1v9 so hard, like, look guys, we'll do this, and we will win. Like, there's no way. Like when you like create all this hype about your draft or about the idea you have, then it's natural that people believe you more. And the way he like approached it already, probably not even being aware of it. Maybe he was aware of it, like how he approached it, maybe not. But like the way he did it, just like everyone would trust him, you know? Everyone would be like, yeah, like he is like into it. And for example, I thought Trundle is the most OP jungle for playoffs, but I didn't want to show it to other teams because only in like Asia they knew it, or like only in Asia they would prior Trundle everywhere. But I thought Trundle is so fucking broken, we should just play Trundle every game. But I didn't want to play it every game because I was scared that people would pick it up. But I was so excited every game I would have Trundle, because even though like in some games I would int it as Trundle, I would die more with Trundle than other champs because I would feel more strong than I actually was. I just felt like it's always free win. Like and so, probably because the same way about Lulukoma.
You don't care about like all the potential counters because like I mean for people that like a co-stream, for example. So for me and LS, we perceive like a bunch of things to be actually like viable into Trundle that are now open. So like so for example, I'll give you an idea here. Is like in China right now, Graves is like super high priority. And Graves, I perceived always is a good matchup into Trundle. Kindred, Karthus, like all those matchups. You think all that stuff just doesn't matter? You just think Trundle is just so OP naturally with his ability to like scale throughout the game?
I mean, I just think that,
you don't care about those matchups?
I mean, I do think that, you know, some matchups are good. Kindred especially. I had a lot of troubles playing against Kindred back in the day when I was playing Trundle. I would always run it down. I think it was back in 2018. If you ask Perks, he would just say that I was always fucking hinting on Trundle against Kindred because literally I would just run it down into Kindred and die and be like, oh shit. But how I see it is that there's so many tanks in the meta, and there's so many immobile AD carries and immobile picks that Pilar is just way too broken, and the slow Pilar provides is just so OP. So even if I would play something like Kindred into Trundle, or like I would be on the Trundle side, I would still be like, as long as I do my job in the early game, don't die to her, and we go into team fight, she's not going to have enough income to actually be meaningful, like have meaningful damage to carry a fight, and I will just be a tank, so they'll never kill me, and I will ult someone, and he will get one shot, and they will have either On or Maokai or whatever, right? Because that's kind of the meta Renekton, and he will just get ulted, and he will just get blown up. And yeah, I mean, I just feel like Trundle is just way superior for like the meta just because of team fights, and same goes for Karthus. Sure, Karthus will have free farm against Trundle, but Trundle will like never die to Karthus at some point, and as soon as it goes to team fights, Trundle will run in, not die to Karthus, and yeah, kill the tank, you know? Like, you will always win, like with Trundle, how I see it, you will always win like back-to-back fights.
By the way, Dom, I want to ask you this because obviously you're a jungler as well, so I want to get your take on it, whether it's like a solo queue thing. That's, to me, when I hear LS said that, to me that's like a classic LS one where it's like, okay, LS, yes, in theory, maybe that champion does well into it, but have you not noticed like almost no one in the West plays fucking Kindred, and they're definitely not good when they play it? Like, you know, it's like the burden of execution seems a lot higher than he realizes.
Like in NA, for example.
Who do you think is good?
Blabber ran it down in finals, right? But with Kindred, but he's somebody who really prioritizes.
He's like one of the only ones who does, though, right?
Yeah.
The rest are kind of garbage.
I think he'll find Kindred into Pantheon now.
Yeah, but then he also played Kindred into Trundle series before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, so he played it versus 100 Thieves. He played the Kindred into Trundle, looked really, really good.
Oh my, but 100 Thieves, like, come on.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, the whole point was.
But the matchup,
yeah, the matchup is good and it looks pretty punishing. So. But you can continue.
Is it like way better in solo queue though, Dom? Like if you get, would you wreck people if you were Kindred versus Trundle?
I would feel so fucking bad if I played Kindred into Trundle in solo queue and I lost the game. Like I would just feel like, holy shit, I am really fucking washed up. It's like I'm almost 30. It's time to just fucking call it quits.
Yeah.
Let's do another talk show. Like just add another thing to the fucking list. Like it's just over for me.
That's the thing. I don't play champs like this in solo queue, right? So for example, Trundle, I actually didn't play a single solo queue game of because I just don't think this champ is very complicated. And as long as you have a good game understanding on how to play the champion, you will play well on it, well enough, right? And it's not like a Lee Sin where you have to like really fucking go in 1v5 and kick someone and like do it really clean. It's more like you put your pillar, use your rules, you did a good job. And same goes for champions like Jarvan. So I don't really play a lot of tanks in solo queue because I just don't have a lot of fun doing it. And if I blind pick Trundle in solo queue and I play against a Kindred, and Kindred in my opinion is a good solo queue champ already, I would probably just lose all of my hair. I would be really mad. So
this is why G2 is so OP. This is why G2 is so OP. Look, mate, there's literally, as far as I can tell, every player except Perks, and even Perks I think always has secret shit he's practicing on secret. In fact, every player in G2 plays picks they don't even play much solo queue. Everyone does. Wonder did it in the split, obviously. We know the bot lane just did it. You do it. Like, that's got to be one of the most OP factors ever. Because actually the difference is, Dom, they in theory could do some of these theoretical drafts. Whereas as you see, a lot of the other teams are like forgetting in that sense. Like, a lot of people aren't going to play shit they've played like twice in their life.
Most teams you can do some scouting based off solo queue. Like, I don't know if it's still the same, but I'm pretty sure like up until season 7, I was still like involved within like just like understanding how teams are working, etc. and like analysis work. And normally people like know all the secret accounts of all like the people that they're about to play against. Like, oh shit, this guy's playing a lot of this. Like, and more times than not, what people are spamming in solo queue is what they're going to end up playing like on stage.
Sorry, I tickling my throat there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hooney was the worst ever for that, mate. He used to just play the shit the night before. And you just looked at his account like, oh, he's playing that. Well, ban that. It's like,
so
this guy's an idiot.
So that used to be like a good method of scouting. But I mean, I feel like it must be so shocking for teams like Fnatic to just be getting like cog lulu'd in the finals.
In the final as well, for God's sake. You think the finals, the last place the guy's going to pull it out, right? Maybe in like the first round matchup or something. In the final, in game 3 or something, like, what?
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah, to add to that, I cannot really tell you names because if I tell you names, they can fix it. But there are players that still do that. They play like the night before or like even the same day. They play like champions that probably they'll play on stage, and they play a lot of solo queue. They like based on solo queue, you can see which champs they'll play this week. And I think that's very normal because I also, when I play a lot of Lee Sin, I'll play Lee Sin on stage. I think that's totally normal for players to do.
Yeah.
But it compared to like other teams, we have this question mark.
I mean, also
random stuff as well, or like other laners at least.
A Lee Sin is not a Kog'Maw, right? Like a Lee Sin is like, okay, everyone probably plays fucking Lee Sin unless you're like Xmithie or Meteos and you're like you're reaching my age where it's like, okay, it's just over. Just don't touch a mechanical champion anymore. But like for most people, they're not going to be blindsided by Lee Sin. A Kog'Maw, for example, is something that you might be like a little bit more scared of, or like it's a more weird pick. It's like if somebody is practicing Kog'Maw in solo queue, it's not something that people consider meta. Nowhere else in the world, I haven't seen one other match of another team playing Kog'Maw so far in like other regions in playoffs. So just in general, I feel like that's just a much more unique pick. I mean, back to the solo queue point that you're making, what allows you to still be so dominant in solo queue? Because when I look at other players, like normally the young, like rookie players are the ones that are really topping solo queue that I've seen. And you've just been at the top of a US solo queue. I think you're top 10 right now. Last time I checked, you're top 10. If you're not top 10 now, then you're fucking close to it.
Yeah, get your shit together.
I wanted to say that.
Wait,
exactly. Yeah.
Are you top 10 right now, actually?
I'm not sure. I'm currently doing like an unlocked challenger, but I'm doing on the Riot accounts. I'm playing with like grandmasters, but my main account is like 1300 LP.
Yeah.
So maybe top 10, maybe not.
Yeah, so
I just didn't check.
Most players, as time goes on, they get worse and worse at solo queue. Like the more that they play, the worse they are at solo queue. I mean, famously right now, I don't know if you guys know this, but Faker has not hit Challenger once this entire season. There was a Reddit thread on it recently. He has not hit Challenger one time in Korea this entire season. He was stuck in Diamond for a while. Then he's like low Grandmaster. What allows? Yeah, so like, what allows you to always be at the top of solo queue? Like, how do you have like the mental like fortitude to grind out all those games?
Like, where's your stamina, basically? Yeah. How do you keep doing it every year on year on year? Like, you played a lot of years, mate.
Yeah, apparently you're ranked 7, by the way.
I'm a streamer. Like literally, like that could. I'm a streamer, so I mean. I stopped streaming for playoffs when we lost Mad Lions because I got a bit worried, and I put more time into solo queue, like actually meaningful solo queue, playing, because on stream sometimes I play troll champs, but meaningful solo queue is always playing champs you could play on stage, like, Olaf and stuff. On top of I want to show off on stream, right? I don't want to do bad. And sometimes today I had a Kane game when I went 1-10. I was really sad about it. And not sad, I was just like really tilted. But normally I want to show off on stream. I want to prove that I'm really good. So I will win games based on the fact that I'm trying to win. I'm not streaming to like play for fun. I'm not streaming to like, I mean, obviously I have fun while playing, and some games will not be like the others, but like the point of solo queue for me is to win and to climb and to be top 1 if I can be. So I will not play just to like, play a champion and not do my best. When I play, I just want to win, and that's it. So I've been grinding for so many years because I still want to win championship as well, if that makes sense. Like, I still want to be a good player, and also I'm getting older and older, so I know that maybe there is a chance I will become. I mean, obviously playing too much is bad, and but maybe playing too little is also bad when you like just become washed up, right? And also, we have like so many great players in Europe, like junglers, like Shadow, Selfmade, Inspired, like all of them, like even Zers and stuff. So I just have like a lot of competition, right? So I can't just not play, because if I stop playing, and I will, like, my game knowledge is still there, but what if like mechanically I'm not like in shape, then I will just like be worse,
See, that response actually is even more impressive than what I was thinking. He's like, oh, well, it's because I'm a streamer that I'm like top 10. For every other person that I've talked to ever, they say it's way harder to play League on stream than off stream. Like, it's way harder to focus on the game. It's way harder to like, climb and improve. Almost every player that ends up climbing super, super high ends up doing most of it off stream, or even like when TF Blade does his challenges or whatever, when he got rank 1 EU, rank 1 NA, etc. He does it no mic, no cam. Like, he's trying not to interact. So the fact that you're doing it on stream is just like, okay, maybe you're just fucking built different than the other people that I've been seeing, because normally that's just like not the case. Like, if you want to grind solo queue, you want to improve, it'd be way easier to do it just with full focus on the game.
I'll give you a thought that might connect to this. Well, another reason why it actually sort of makes sense that Jankos would still be hungry and would know, like, I have to keep playing now even though I'm a champion, is I'd have to look this up, but off the top of my head, I would actually guess that Jankos is the player in Europe who played the most pro splits in LEC and EU LCS before he won. Like, you played something absurd, like 8 splits or something before you won. So everyone else, you either win or you're just an average player for your whole career and you're never going to win. So if you're someone like that who made 1 million semis but you never won, you should, in theory, when you finally win, you should be more hungry than ever, because now it's like, right, now's my chance to win. Finally, after all those years of getting wrecked, now I can actually win like this one, the next one. And if you had a team like he has, fuck it, just go all out. Like, just go ham for these 3 years and then do whatever you want after that. You win all the championships now.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case, right? I mean, I am pretty motivated right now, because I know that as soon as either I get kicked out of G2 or I leave the team for more salary or something, I'm probably leaving for salary then, and I'm probably done with like actually competing to win. And I would still like compete to win in a way where I want to win, but this is like the bullshit that a lot of players tell you that is actually not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everyone says they want to win, but not really, you know.
It's like when Power People
$1 million in an A, you know.
Yeah, no.
By the way, I've got a nice piece of trivia for you along those lines as well, because this is another thing I was thinking about while we were talking. So Jankos, like I said, had all those years where he never won. In fact, he was never even in the finals. So people used to just say like he's a choker or whatever. Here's what's mad. This is how fast it can turn around when you really start winning. Same thing with Doublelift, where he used to never win, and then now he's won the most ever, more than Bjergsen, etc. Now, because Jankos has won 3, there's only one person ever in Europe has won more as a jungler, and that was just Trick. with the 4 titles in a row. That's it. Cyanide only won 3, Rainover won, I think, 2, Broxer won 2. So he's actually already second all time for his position. Like that's one of the key things, people. Anyone who's younger, this is a key thing to understand. Is it ain't about whether you win like your first chance or your second chance. It's about getting as many opportunities as you can. Because if you only had 2 chances to do something, the odds you do it aren't as high as if you have 10 chances. So if you're just as hungry from chance 1 to chance 10, there's a way better chance you become a world champion, a champion, whatever it might be. There's a great saying they have in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I used to do as like a side hobby, which they tell you this, right? Because it helps you set your mentality for when you're bad and you're starting to learn. The saying goes like this: when you're the nail in the scenario of a hammer and a nail, you just try to hang in there. You try to survive. You're not going to win. A nail can't beat a hammer. But when you get your chance to be the hammer by hanging in there, you smash the fuck out of everyone. So what you do is when you're the nail, you just keep thinking the whole time, when I get my chance, bro, you just give me a good teammate. Just let me get some skills. Because when I do, then I'm going to destroy everyone who's fucking with me. And like I say, he turned it completely around. Now he's got all the championships, basically.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think that just you referencing Trick is just such an example of like how fast it normally turns for junglers, especially. Like junglers, I feel
it's
like
the opposite for him, right? Yeah.
Well, junglers, I feel like normally have the least longevity in terms of like times where they're great. Like think about all the great all-time junglers, like people like Dandy, right? Like he was good for like 1 season, 2 seasons, and then it was just all over. Like no one talks about fucking Dandy anymore. Bengi, same way. I mean, Trick.
Most of the great junglers, literally, like Diamond Prox in Europe, everyone.
I think like the latest example could be Tarzan. He was like considered like one of the best, and he just got relegated as well. I mean, like not necessarily because of him, but he's not very. It
didn't help how he played, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like think about like Trick. Trick is the most all-time winning jungler in Europe, and I have not met one person that does not consider Trick the worst jungler in all of LEC right now. Like,
I mean, Perks would probably lie and say he's not the worst, but he's just being a nice guy if he does that, isn't he? Like, come on.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, Trick's...
I will say, every time I talk to any experts on any shows, except for people who were on his team, everyone kind of thinks he's, like, overrated, basically.
Did you perceive Trick as overrated when you were playing him against in, like, Season 6, Season 7? When he was, like, getting MVP and shit like that?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I always thought I'm better, but that's just like me being like selfish, because I think I didn't see what he would bring to the team, and from what Perks told me, he would bring a lot, because he's not necessarily like a hands player, but he's really like smart, you know. So when he joined G2, he could lead the game in a way where they would actually not know how to play the game, like how he would put wards, how he would like control the game. He would farm more than other junglers instead of ganking, but that would fit their style, because as long as he would ward well, like he would basically bring the LCK style back then to Europe, which, you know, we were not good playing against, because it showed out wards even, right? So I think that he was for sure, like back then, he was really, really good, and I think he was deserved what he got, you know. I think definitely he was a very strong player.
Do you think that he's like I guess, I mean, if he deserved what he got, do you think he's like the best, like besides for you, do you think he's the best jungler in the history of Europe? Like there's no one else that you've been like, oh, that guy was like really good in his prime?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, back in the day, there's like Diamond Prox being like really good, right? Mm-hmm. I would look up to Diamond Prox until he became my rival, and then at some point he was way too cocky in solo queue, so I started like disliking him a lot, and then like every time I meet him now, I'm just like kind of whatever, right? I mean, like from my hero, he turned into like someone whom I stopped liking because of his attitude towards like the other players, I suppose.
It was also kind of his persona, you know. He tried to give off like an aura of like, I'm better than you guys, and I'm going to do it. But the problem is, you can only do that if you are better. If you're worse, it's just annoying.
Yeah, then you're just.
It seems cool if you win and you do that, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Trick. I mean, yeah, well, he won 4 splits, right? So probably, I mean, for sure, he didn't win them in like a flashy fashion, because even when he was winning, people wouldn't say like, wow, this guy's like carrying G2. I think so, at least. But definitely he was that big reason why to G2's success. So even right now, I still think he. I mean, I just don't know what he brings to the team now. But a lot of the examples of what Perks taught me how to like communicate or what to do as a jungler, right? Because I can teach him what I require of him, and he can teach me. And a lot of the examples how he learned how to play League was also based on what Trick would say, right? So I just see that for sure he helped Perks a lot. So he for sure was like a very important part of the team when he was still playing G2.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, I guess you could kind of make the argument that maybe he's similar to somebody like Xmithy and NA, where it's like if you put him on a good team with decent players, like
That's a good analogy,
he's smart about the game, like
exactly.
he knows where to be, etc. But like when you put him on a team like SK, where you don't have like powerful laners really, he's just not going to be able to mechanically like outperform other junglers. Like I would be surprised if there's one jungler that has worse overall mechanics in Europe than Trick.
Put it this way, I do have a problem with the note. Like, listen, I could believe what Jankos said. I think he explained it well there. Like, you don't accidentally win 4 splits in a row, and obviously he was doing his job. But the question we're really asking is he the best at his role, which is different from doing your job and winning. So my problem with the idea that he was ever the best at his role is he was only ever in his entire life as good as people are saying at that period in G2 when he had Perks as his mid laner
Mithy.
and fucking Mithy as his support. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's like the dream if you're a jungler at that point in time. So I'm not hating on the guy, but I'm just saying when you swap those names out and you put in still good players, but not on that level, he's like half the player.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, like, well, he did win his first split with Perks as a rookie, which was nowhere near like.
And he didn't have Mithy in the first one. Yeah,
and,
true.
And then and he also had like someone else bot lane. So and I think he has Kiki Sobos also.
He had Emperor and Hybrid.
Hybrid.
Yeah, exactly. So like definitely he probably for sure at least carried the first split. Like there's probably no way like anyone else would carry that split except for him and maybe Perks, right?
Yeah.
Looking judge on the players, maybe Kiki's as well. I don't know how much would he do back then. I don't know how good was he on the
Kiki's
top
was
side.
surprisingly good. It felt like it was,
as a top player, he wasn't bad actually, was he?
Yeah.
He knew how to play the tanks for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean,
exactly.
He was active.
But like for sure first split, like he did what he had to do, And then sure when Sven and Mithy joined. And Perks got like better at the game as well, like better understanding stuff. Then for sure, like he didn't have to do as much. But I mean.
By the way, that is one move that, like, we don't talk about it because, unfortunately, Kickers isn't that big a name. People don't bring him up that much anymore. But, like, that has to go down as one of the biggest blunders of all time, Dom. Because as you're referencing, he roll swapped from jungle where everyone thought he was like a mad coin flipper. I don't even think he was a coin flipper. His coin had like a 15% chance of working. Then he goes to top lane, actually kind of reinvents himself. And you're thinking, hey, this is pretty. I remember when they won that split thinking, mad respect, actually. I used to think this guy was shit. But he's top. And then he quits because they won't let him play carries. It's like, mate, like, can't you just accept what you've done? Like, what? Also, to be fair, he has been carrying since then. Yeah. Just his bags from team house to team house to team house. You see where I was going with that. No, it's kind of ridiculous, though, isn't it? No one even brings that up. Like, what a stupid move. They only won the next 3 splits.
Well, I mean, I think that it was also that, like, I think it might be some like insecurity as well because he didn't want to split time with Expect. Like, it wasn't
a pretty common trend, you notice.
Yeah, I mean, like. Double and tactical. A lot of these players, like, you win, you just don't want to split time anymore. You're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm a champion. Like, why do I need to split time with this guy? I think that's one thing that people really get lost in is like how much winning a championship really carries over. It's like you can be good, win a championship, 3 months later just be shit. Like if you don't put your time into your craft, like people can overcome you super super hard. If there's
I mean, FPX did not win China this year, did they?
Yeah, I mean, and they got pretty much obliterated in semis. I mean, we watched all the games.
At the same time, though, I feel like playing online on top of playing for nothing because there's not even a Messiah is like just pretty shitty over there, right? So I wouldn't say that they put their best. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, I think it was just weird for them because I think that they were kind of planning on Khan bringing something different to their team than he did, and they ended up just defaulting to Gimgoon. So maybe it's like a bit of like a failed project there where they get a player
the
like.
The problem is. Oh, keep going, sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say just a player like Khan who's like super mechanically talented. Like you probably think that adds another dimension to your team where it's like, oh, well now we can play like all these like specific picks. Like, we'll have the Quinn into Renekton, the Fiora, like all these like famous Khan champions, Jace, all this stuff. And it just didn't end up working out. It's like, that's just not what the team needed. So yeah, but yeah, you can continue with your point.
Yeah, basically, I mean, well, the funny thing is they obviously played the 3rd place game today and actually FPX won over IG with exactly that, with Khan popping off on the Fiora, all that.
Against
here's the problem. True, but then again, the fucking Leon guy wasn't that good either. So
yeah, true.
I would just say the big problem with that is like, dude, this is one of those areas where there's certain players where other pros have a totally different perception of them to all the experts and the analysts. So Khan is one of them. Because, dude, if you ever go and you can talk, if you have the right connections to like real Chinese top pros, real Korean top pros, this is not a joke. They think Khan is like the god. They think he is the shit. I assume because they play him in a scrim and he goes ham. They play him when he gets his comfort champion and goes ham. They play him in the fucking solo queue and he looks godlike. Because on his champions like the Fiora, he's fucking amazing. The problem is this. I don't ever understand why people think he's the god in like the sense, because to me the god is like an all-round player. You have to be able to play like weak side, strong side, bad kicks, like tags, carries, brute. Like that's what makes you the best player. Whereas to me, for such a skilled player, Khan has to be one of the most limited Korean top players I've ever seen in my life. So the reason why to me them adding him to FPX is so weird is because you're right, he does bring a new dimension. Like if you want to split push or whatever, he's going to be sick. But the problem is that was not the way that FPX won Worlds. Like they almost were the opposite of that. Like they were playing through like fucking taking jungle to bot basically. So to me, it's like if they'd have known how to do it, like when we bring in Khan, that's when we play the split. When we do instead, what they did, no joke, is they just put Khan in instead of Gimgoon, thinking he was just an upgrade, and then wondered why if you don't play to him all the time, you're not going to win, or if you do play to him, then you don't FPX anymore. So that was like an example, I think, of where a GM just failed. Whoever thought that was a good move, or whichever player told you to get him, just had a very different perception of the game than the people who can kind of see the bigger picture, as it were, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also, like, there's always talks about weak side, strong side, and I don't really know how much of that is just, like, players' inability to, like, play the weak side, or maybe the team's inability to, like, understand, because, sure, you can play strong side top, like, all the time, right? But we saw this in TSM, where it wasn't necessarily that when Broken Blade played weak side, he just ran it down. Of course, like, sometimes he did run it down, but TSM just wasn't able to do anything on their supposed strong side, which would be bot lane, when their top lane was weak side. Like, they're like, it's like, so pretty much a lot of teams are defaulted into playing certain styles, because when they try to play top side, strong side, their bot lane just doesn't know how to play without resources. Like, that was kind of similar to like what happened with Team Liquid. It's like some people are accustomed to playing with resources, and then if you're a weak side player and suddenly you have resources, you might not be able to like capitalize as much and generate such big leads. So I don't know. In my mind, those types of arguments, like, I don't really know how much of that is like an individual player problem, or maybe the team is just not used to playing.
It could be masking a bigger problem, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
By the way, if it's great, go on.
I think that there is like, I mean, I think there is something like strong and weak side, but I just think that in the league, there's just something like the right play, right? And a lot of these teams, you lose trust in players throughout the split. For example, if you play to Broken Blade and he fucks up, like Oroma just had no attention whatsoever in playoffs, right? So you do lose trust. You tend to lose trust in your teammates. That's something, it happens. You give the guy resources, he fails, then he will play to the other side, because if you play to bot, you win. You play to top, you lose. So at some point, you will not play to top. But I believe that there's like a correct a correct way of playing the game, where you don't really play to bot or top. You just play the game as it's supposed to be played. So the jungler has to be where he has to be, and sometimes he has to cover bots, and sometimes he has to dive top lane. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you will only go bot lane because you have Lulu Kog'Maw, and if they die, it's over. And you pick a tank top, and even if top lane dies, it doesn't matter, because even if Broken Blade, for example, dies 2 times, but you play to that win condition of team fights where you scale with your bot lane, it doesn't matter. Or maybe you play to mid and you want to dive silence. Like, there's just so many ways of playing the game you can do, but you just have to be like smart all around as a team to be able to play through them. And I think we as G2 are aware of all of them, or like most of the time at least, but we just chose to play to bot at least in the finals. But we did play the Kalista style with Wunder when he was popping off. So I mean, I don't know about, I cannot speak for other teams, but I just feel like it's just inability of playing a good draft and just playing to actually like your win condition, not necessarily to we have a game plan of drafting only for Broken Blade, and we only play with Broken Blade. And Broken Blade is just example because you said it, and I don't really care about it, and I didn't watch a lot of games. I'm sorry, so I can't really speak from actual like knowledge, but I'm just giving you like a League of Legends theory in my opinion.
No, and that's pretty much how TSM looked. They played through Broken Blade. They were able to do stuff. When they didn't play through Broken Blade, they couldn't do anything bot lane. That's probably why they ended up going with like a different player in the bot lane. Now Doublelift is coming back because they need a stronger voice so that they have that ability to play through both sides of the map. Because I never think that just having a strong side, weak side, like in a vacuum where it's like, yes, this guy is going to play tanks top every single game.
That, can you? Yeah,
it just makes you too predictable as a team. Like, I feel like it's just a weakness eventually. So I think that being able to play through both sides of the map is really important. I mean, when I was talking to Grabs earlier, one of the things he said was that, like, in scrims, your team just, like, runs it down to the enemy jungler. Like, there's so many times where the enemy jungler, like, you guys know where he is the entire game, and he ends up, like, 4-0, 5-0, etc. Like, he just carries the whole game. Especially, like, even just in a game that we saw when you played Game 5 in versus Mad Lions in the quarterfinals, or, like, the first round that you played, where you completely, like, put Shadow super far behind. He just ends up getting 4 kills randomly, like, in a top lane fight, and then he gets super, super strong. Like, how do you deal with that as a jungler? Like, how are you able to, like, overcome the tilting factor of playing jungle with your team and always play so confidently?
Actually, it's pretty funny that, like, right after this game happened, and he had, like, somewhere between
kills.
Like 14, 18, 16 kills on Olaf.
Yeah.
The first thing that I heard from my mid laner, kha'zix, was, we should have banned Olaf.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I was like,
holy fuck.
What? Did you play the same game as me? I couldn't believe what he said, but obviously he said it out of the emotions. And I agree with him. We should have banned Olaf because we plan to play AP bot and mid. And Olaf is just really strong against it, especially that I was playing a tank, right? So basically at some point Olaf should be unkillable. But we had the tools to snowball, and we didn't. We failed. We gave up kills. In that game, I did make some mistakes, though. I was on the wrong side of the map when Mickey was face checking the jungle, and if I'm there, we probably killed the Olaf because they were also on the wrong side. They're just team mistakes. I made mistakes. Everyone did mistakes. Made mistakes. So I think that I personally deal. I mean, I get really tilted and triggered when enemy jungle is playing better than me. And that's just my thing. I don't know. I can't stand it when enemy jungle is doing well. I really hate it.
Every jungler.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for everyone, though. I don't think it's let's say enemy mid lane is 1v9ing, then probably Perk is not too happy about it, right? So, like, every time your opponent, even though it's a team game, your opponent is doing better than you or is doing well, you always, like, hate the feeling and you always want to prove that you are the better player. So I was, not too happy about Shadow's performances through that whole BO5 because I did feel like I personally felt like he played really, really well, better than me in the first series we had. But yeah, I mean, it just happens, and you just learn from it. Hopefully you do.
But like, how as a jungler do you maintain confidence when you have a team that, like, allegedly dies a lot in scrims, like dies to ganks that they see coming, etc. Even in stage games, like, there's a lot of, like, unnecessary deaths because of, like, just pure aggression and things like that from lanes. Like, how as a jungler do you maintain confidence to be like, oh, whatever, like, we're still going to be able to be, like, the best team, we're still going to, like, win a championship, etc. Like, how do you not let it get to you?
After, like, few games, you just, like, have a team talk and you say, like, guys, I don't know what the fuck is going on, can you stop inting? Like, that's what I do, at least. Like, I mean, it depends, like, normally you can explain the ints, and how I do it is that I go through replays either alone or with someone, and I just watch the early game and I just think about if this death makes sense or if it doesn't, right? And if it doesn't make sense, then I will just bring it up to the team because maybe sometimes there's just no reason to die. But also what I have to understand, or what Jankos have to understand, is that people test matchups, people overplay, people make mistakes, people don't respect stuff. So it's just a part of scrims, and you cannot have perfect games most of the time. You cannot, like, expect everyone to play perfect. You cannot expect them to not die to a gank. Even if I call a gank, it doesn't really matter. They were like, maybe they have to push out, maybe I should be there, maybe they didn't call me because they forgot, or maybe I should have looked at the lane and been there myself. So there's, like, so many factors that go into you dying as a laner that normally it's just important for it to not get to you, and you just focus on yourself. And if you see bot lane inting, you can suggest a swap or something, maybe build a good game plan around it, or maybe just keep in mind that your bot lane will be behind this game, but you don't give up, or you don't get killed. I mean, that's something I did back in the day, right? Like, back in the day when this would happen to me, I would just, like, play my top laner or someone else, right? But, like, that's what I learned throughout the years to not do. And I think that there's always a way of playing the game, even from behind. And if you get emotional because enemy jungle is doing better than you, that sucks. You can maybe try to watch the replay after the game and see why he played better than you, or what did his team do that your team didn't do. And that way you can maybe make your team better. And I think I try to do that. And that's why for example, like, being an FPX series, the Worlds, I didn't really feel like Tian was outjungling me. I just felt like how they played as a team was just so much better than how we played. So I just couldn't do much because their whole game plan was about fucking me in the in the jungle. And
yes, exactly.
So that's
there's
what you
nothing
call
I
it?
could do because because even if I knew what would happen in the game, I couldn't do anything to prevent it. So that's why I think jungle is very team role. And as long as we have a good team and all of you are on the same page and you discuss stuff and you have ideas, you can create a strong jungle. You know, I don't think that I'm very good only because of myself. I also have to give a lot of credit to my teammates because I think that they also help me to become better a lot.
Right.
By the way,
so take notes, Dardoch. This is how you stay on a team for longer than a year.
There you go. Earlier on, we referenced Ning, right? Because we talked about IG, right? Obviously, when Ning was the jungler of IG, was when they had a lot of success against your teams. The one where you had the year we still had Jan and Wadid. Obviously, they won the semis against you, and then they had the games at MSI where they were looking awesome against you guys. What are your thoughts on Ning as a jungler? I don't want to give any. I'm not going to take this anyway. I just want to straight up know what you think of him as a jungler.
Of Ning?
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely bad. He was definitely bad last year, right? Like
2019 he was bad, but in 2018 I think he was really annoying to play against. I think he played all the aggressive picks at Worlds, so he played Camille Xin Zhao mostly, and if you would give one of these picks to him, he would always perma invade and perma gank. And back then the crab would spawn at 2 minutes or something, so you wouldn't get punished by ganking early. Even if it would fail, you could take the crab. So his play style made so much sense with the lanes he had, which is Rookie and Shy, which were really fucking dominant back then. So I think IG as a team was the super team in 2018, because I think that how they played as a team, on top of how the individuals played, on top of what the meta was, just made them superior towards everyone else. Like the Shy, the Daddy, Rookie, Ning, Jakilov, Baolan, all of them were so good back then.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
It feels like jungling was a lot simpler back then too, because I mean there was pretty much one path that everyone did in Worlds, where everyone was just red, golems, crab. That was just and then maybe if you want to throw a level 2 gank in there, you can do it, but red, golems, crab was pretty much agreed upon because it was the only way to get level 3 off.
I also
one buff, one camp, and crab.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I also think that, because you bring up the jungler, I also think that back then, the Asian junglers' advantage over European junglers was that we didn't play Camille in Europe almost at all. And as soon as Worlds came in, everyone had to, every European jungler had to pick up Camille. And I very honest with you, I don't see Broxa playing Camille ever. And I don't even, wait, he was at Kiki's as well, I think, right? Yeah. So I don't see Kikis playing Camille. So I was the only European jungler that could play Camille. But even my Camille was really elo boosted. So also the Asian teams were so much better when it comes to certain champions in the jungle back then. I think if I would play Camille as I could maybe right now, maybe even right now my Camille wouldn't be as crisp, but for sure it's so much better than it was. And my game understanding about Camille and how I would hook shot and stuff is so much better. So I just think that also gave them a lot of the draft advantages. And when the Shy locked in Jace, it was just no hope. I don't know where that pick came from and how did he play Jace so fucking well as well. But the Chinese Camille and the Desai Jace, there's no stopping them.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't understand why you play Camille anymore. In the jungle, I feel like this champion is so horrible in the jungle. The clear speed is so slow. You get so low, naturally, you can't stun camps, etc. Why do you still play this champion, even in solo queue?
I do have fun playing Camille. It's just fun champ, no? Hookshot is OP. It's the dream jungle ability. You have so much range, you E, and you can pretty much jump on both. As long as you E from left or right side, you can pretty much cover all the mid lanes. So it's so easy to gank mid. And back then, in mid lane, you had different matchups. A lot of Irelia being played, and I think Camille is obviously much better against melee champs than it is against range champs. But yeah, still, I just think Camille back then was really strong, and I still have a lot of fun playing it. And back at Worlds, I still have fun playing it, but I just think I didn't play it well enough. And even so, my team still trusted me, and we still picked it. But I think I could do much better than what I did when I actually played Camille.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, we're approaching 2 hours in. We normally just open it up to the guests at this point. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Any topics that you had that went through your head that you wanted to discuss on a show like this before we close it out here?
Not necessarily, no. I think it's getting pretty late, so I wouldn't mind going to eat some, meal of the day, because I actually did tell my friends I will play with them at 9 p.m. and it's 5 minutes until 9 p.m. So I don't be that guy, but
no, it sounds
I
good.
have to still eat.
Sounds good. This is the normal part where we cut it off. Well, it was a pleasure having you. We went way back in your career, so it was good to kind of cover everything and just jump topic to topic as always. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. That's going to be it for us here, and we will see you next week on the Crackdown. Peace out, guys. Thanks, Jankos.
Thank you.